Heartbreaking update to the case of 19-year-old DaCara Thompson, who has been missing since August 22nd. Police say the body they found earlier this week does belong to her, and they've made an arrest. 35-year-old Hugo Hernandez-Mendez of Bowie has been charged with DaCara's murder. Investigators say Hernandez-Mendez is in the country illegally, and an ICE detainer was issued for him yesterday. Police say they have surveillance video that shows DaCara getting into the suspect's car near where her car was found in Hyattsville. Investigators say he then drove her to his home in Bowie, and they believe he allegedly murdered her in his bedroom. I asked during the news conference held earlier today whether the suspect has any prior arrests. Police say he was arrested by U.S. Park Police in April for a DUI and was released. News 4 is trying to work to learn more about that April arrest. To recap some of the facts of this case, DaCara was last seen by her family in Lanham, Maryland on August 22nd. She was reported missing the following day. Police say her body was discovered about a week after that on August 31st in a grassy area along Route 50 in Annapolis. This case is still in its early stages. We do not know why DaCara allegedly got into the suspect's car or if she knew him. Hernandez-Mendez is expected to have a bail hearing on Monday.
Prince George's County Police have said that once they were notified about the case, they began investigating areas where Thompson was last seen. They produced a flyer that was distributed, but initially the department did not reach out to news outlets or publish Thompson's picture on their blog or their X account. I've spoken with Prince George's County Police about why, and it was explained to me that because Thompson was a healthy adult, her case was not considered critical. When we asked the chief about that today, here's what's his response.
The facts as we have it is she was in that vehicle before she was ever reported missing. So we did canvass the area. We searched, we questioned people in the area. We looked for video. We did all of these things. As a practice, critical missings get distributed. But the family did a lot of hard work and they distributed information and you all covered that. So the information was out and the community had it.
Black and Missing Foundation partners with law enforcement to help find people whose cases are sometimes mishandled or ignored. And their work has had a great impact on how cases of missing Black people are handled by police. They describe how their work has changed how D.C.'s police department approaches missing cases and why this can be a good example for other jurisdictions.
Regardless of the situation of that person being missing, everyone gets a flyer. And that right there, that public notification is so important. As soon as that missing person's case is filed, it gets a flyer and it becomes disseminated all over the media, social media platforms, sharing it with the general public. And that right there is the first step, because the community can't help you in finding someone if the community is not aware that someone is missing. And so just those first 24 to 48 hours, those are the most critical moments.
Again, Prince George's County Police say they did distribute flyers and investigate, although in terms of social media and media outreach, this was initially more of a grassroots effort, large part because of her age. But this gives everyone an opportunity to learn a little bit more about how these decisions are made. You heard what Black and Missing had to say about it. They want every case to be treated like it's critical because of those initial hours. But, you know, as you heard from the chief there are a lot of questions in terms of timing on whether that would have made a difference with when she was reported missing. Hours exactly, you know, but it's just a very heartbreaking case. And then there were a number of African-American women who came up missing. We had 3 at the same time from around the same area, and there was a lot on social media of people making assumptions about what had happened and what was going on in this case. One of those women found, another one is still critically missing, but what is important is that the more information we're able to get from law enforcement, the better people are able to deal with all of this information. Just a very unfortunate ending to this case. The entire community was praying for her safe return, so this is most unfortunate.
Extremely limited in any information that I can provide today. But I'll say this, the goal of this office is to achieve justice for DaCara Thompson and for her family. And that goal requires that my office have the ability to fully investigate and to thoroughly review any and all evidence in this case in order to make a determination regarding the appropriate charges for indictment. In addition, this office's primary concern is not the legal status of the defendant, or frankly of any other defendant. My concern is to hold accountable people who commit crimes against the residents of Prince George's County. My job is to hold accountable anyone who commits a crime in Prince George's County against, again, our residents. At this point, there is not much more than I can say other than, as the state's attorney, it is my job to ensure that the process is fair, that it is transparent and in full accordance with the law. And we will remain steadfast in our commitment to achieving justice. Thank you.
Are there any other suspects that you're looking at, any other people possibly involved in this?
Again, this case is under investigation, and so I cannot further comment as to the nature of any other suspects or any part of the investigation. Again, there were charges. The commissioner's office found probable cause. The judge has now held this defendant without bond. But as to the strength of the case, I can't comment on that at this particular point.
Jasmine. Are you able to share what's next in indictment or in terms of the legal process?
In terms of what's next, our office again has to thoroughly review not only the charges that were lodged against the defendant, but the evidence that the police have collected in this case and continue to investigate where necessary, along with all of our law enforcement partners. And we'll make a determination in short order as to the appropriateness of any charges and what those charges will be. And then we would present to the grand jury for indictment.
Has there been a cause and manner of death determined at this point? And is there anything holding that up, as far as that process?
At this point, I can't speak to that, but we will. I can't speak to anything else that was not revealed within the statement of charges.
Any other questions?
Was anyone from the family?
Who's your name, please?
Carmen Thompson.
Carmen Thompson?
Yes,
And you are a?
I'm the mother of DaCara Thompson.
What were your thoughts in being at the hearing today? And our hearts go out to you for your loss, first off. What do you want to say now that this justice process is moving forward?
I would like to thank the PG County State's Attorney's Office for the great service that they've been providing. I just want justice served for my daughter.
How are you guys doing? How's the family doing right now?
Is as good as a family could be under these circumstances, so not so good. We're trying to maintain.
Tell us a little bit about your daughter. She was 19, just getting started, a young lady out of high school. Tell
Yes,
us about her, please.
my daughter, she had just turned 19 years old prior to this unfortunate circumstance. She was working under Westmore's Maryland Year Service Corps option, whatever it's called, program. She had just completed a year-long internship in which she was very successful. She did a great job. She was she was a kind of an outgoing, soft-spoken, kind young lady. She was a free spirit. She was a good girl. She was a good kid. So there's been a lot of people disparaging her character on social media and things as such. Please don't believe everything you see. Don't believe everything you hear. Out of respect for the family and us grieving, please, approach everything with grace. We would appreciate that.
Ma'am, do you have any thoughts about this notion that this guy was arrested by Park Police and released back in April?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
This man, Mr. Hernandez-Mendez,
Yes.
was arrested by the United States Park Police for drunk driving in April 25th on the BW Parkway. He was subsequently released. There was no check of his immigration status or anything like that. There were no warrants at the time, no detainer. But he was in federal custody. And then he was released, and he is in the country without proper
Right.
documentation. And now they've filed.
I'm very disappointed, finding that out now, because we may not be here today if they did what they were supposed to do.
Is there any indication that the
Let me again say that I just want to be clear, and out of respect for the family as well, any questions regarding the nature of the investigation would be harmful to our investigation at this particular point. So I want to make sure that we don't delve into any of that information. I will say you asked a question earlier. As always, there'll be an autopsy that's performed as a part of the investigation.
Last questions, Katie?
Carmen, and then a follow-up from Madam State's Attorney. The family often has a long journey after a crime like this happens.
Yes.
The trauma as the case moves forward and the victims have to outlive the crime itself. Is the family prepared for what's about to happen in the coming months of the grueling work of retelling the story, working with investigators, everything that's to come?
That's a tough question. That's a tough question because we know it's going to be extremely hard. We just ask that everybody pray for our strength through the process.
And Madam State's Attorney, the DC U.S. Attorney has blamed Maryland for crime in the district and for guns coming into the county. Have you seen any change recently given the surge in the district just across the border in Maryland, or anything that has been different after the national troops have been in the district?
All I'll say to that is that we continue to work with our law enforcement partners both in Prince George's County and in the district to make sure that that we're protecting the residents of this county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Best of luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming. Yes, yes. Good to see you. Yes.
Sorry. Oh, no problem. I just wanted to get her on my show, not related to this, just in general.
There's a specific kind of silence that happens when someone you love is accused of murder. Not the silence of grief. That comes later. This is a silence of cognitive dissonance. When your brain physically cannot reconcile the person you know with the person described in court documents. DaCara Thompson's case forces us into that silence from every angle. The suspect's cousin speaks, and she doesn't defend him. She says he started acting strange. DaCara's best friend speaks, and her rage isn't just about loss. It's about strangers on the internet reducing a human being to a headline. Both families are drowning in the same nightmare, just from different shores. Here's what keeps me awake about this case. The roommates, two people in the same house on the same night, heard something at 5 a.m. that made them believe someone was enjoying sex. They told police this. They described grunting noises. DaCara's phone went dead at 5:03 a.m., 3 minutes later. And then there were two other roommates who said they heard nothing. They lived on the opposite side of the house. They don't recall what happened. But here's the part that makes your skin crawl. When the suspect's cousin finally spoke to the media, she didn't say, "I can't believe he did this." She didn't say, "This isn't who he is." She said his behavior had changed. She said she rarely saw him anymore. And then she apologized to DaCara's parents while standing next to her own children. What does it mean when the people who share your blood can't defend you? What does it mean when the people who shared your walls heard you kill someone and did nothing? And what does it mean when a 19-year-old girl's last repost on social media was about being the ex nobody needs to worry about, posted hours before she disappeared? This isn't a story about a monster. This is a story about the 2-hour gap nobody can explain. The surveillance footage police won't release, and the moment when going out for gas became a decision that ended two families. If you want to understand how a single night can destroy everyone it touches, not just a victim, not just a perpetrator, but everyone in the blast radius, you need to hear what happened when the people closest to this tragedy finally broke their silence. Subscribe, because this case is about to challenge everything you think you know about guilt, complicity, and the difference between hearing something and doing something about it. Let's start with what DaCara's best friend said, because it cuts through all the noise. Her name is DaCara Thompson. She's love. She's a human. She's not an object. The fact that she had to say this tells you everything about what happens when a young black woman goes missing. The internet didn't wait for facts. They didn't wait for context. They started speculating about what she was doing, who she was meeting, whether she was selling her body. They reduced a 19-year-old college student with dreams of real estate to a cautionary tale before her body was even found. Here's what we know about DaCara Thompson before August 22nd. 2025 became the worst day of multiple people's lives. She had just turned 19, 14 days earlier. Her favorite color was pink. She didn't like meeting new people, which is something that resonates if you've ever felt that social exhaustion, that preference for familiar faces. She was in an internship program. Her friends called her mom the college mom because that's the kind of support system she had. She posted videos with her best friend. She had siblings who loved her enough to search for her for days without sleeping. But social media does what social media does. It fills in gaps with assumptions. Someone reposted a video about exes, about not being the crazy ex who stalks and obsesses. And because DaCara had shared on August 22nd, people started building narratives. Maybe there was a boyfriend. Maybe there was drama. Maybe she was meeting someone she shouldn't have been meeting. Her mother hearted a comment that said, "I don't think drugs were involved." I do believe with her being young, her parents maybe didn't know much about her dating life. Possibly a guy is involved and maybe they were having a disagreement and it went wrong. Think about that for a second. Her mother, in the middle of searching for her missing daughter, saw that comment and hearted it, not because she was confirming anything, but because when your child is missing, you're grasping for any explanation that makes sense, any theory that doesn't end with your daughter being dead. Now let's talk about what we actually know happened that night, because the timeline is where this case lives. 10 p.m. on August 22nd, DaCara tells her father she's going to get gas and she's going out. Not just gas. Out! She was 19. She was responsible. She was trusted. Her father texts her, "I love you. I'm about to go to bed. I was just checking on you." She texts back immediately, "I got gas and I'm out. I should be back soon. I love you too. Good night." That's the last normal conversation her father ever has with her. By 1:30 a.m. on August 23rd, DaCara parks her SUV in the area of Jasmine Terrace in Hyattsville, Maryland. There's surveillance footage of this. Her father obtained it from someone in the neighborhood. She gets out of her car. She walks away. And then there's a gap, a 2-hour gap that nobody can explain. The suspect, Hugo Hernandez Mendez, 35 years old, a landscaper from Guatemala living in Bowie, Maryland, told detectives he went to Galaxy nightclub that night to meet his ex-girlfriend, but they never met up. The Galaxy nightclub is located at 2301 University Boulevard, directly across from where DaCara was last seen entering a black GMC Yukon. Here's where speculation becomes unavoidable, even though authorities haven't confirmed it. Someone online commented, "Didn't he say he was at a club on the next street from where she parked?" My theory is she parked by the apartments at 1:30 because it was free parking. She went into the club, and that's where she met him. Probably had some drinks and went home with him. That's why you don't see her getting in his car until 3 o'clock. That's usually when the club closes. Nobody knows if this is true, but it would explain the gap. It would explain why a 19-year-old who told her father she was going out might have ended up in a stranger's car at 3 in the morning. It would explain why she walked up to the driver's side of that GMC Yukon, talked to the person inside for about a minute, then walked around the passenger side and got in. Because here's what the surveillance footage that police won't release reportedly shows. She willingly entered that vehicle. She wasn't dragged. She wasn't forced. She made a choice based on information she had in that moment. Information we'll never have. The vehicle drives off at 3 a.m. DaCara's phone shows she's in the car the entire time. They arrive at his residence in Bowie at 3:47 a.m. For the next hour and 16 minutes, her phone remains active. She's in that house. She's in his bedroom. At 5 a.m., the roommate in the next room hears what he describes as a sexual encounter. Then he hears grunting noises. He tells police it made him believe someone wasn't enjoying it. 3 minutes later, at 5:03 a.m., DaCara's phone goes dead. The DaCara Thompson case. When everyone speaks but no one has answers. There's a specific kind of silence that happens when someone you love is accused of murder. Not the silence of grief. That comes later. This is the silence of cognitive dissonance. when your brain physically cannot reconcile the person you know with the person described in court documents. DaCara Thompson's case forces us into that silence from every angle. The suspect's cousin speaks, and she doesn't defend him. She says he started acting strange. DaCara's best friend speaks, and her rage isn't just about loss. It's about strangers on the internet reducing a human being to a headline. Both families are drowning in the same nightmare, just from different shores. Here's what keeps me awake about this case. The roommates, two people in the same house on the same night, heard something at 5 a.m. that made them believe someone wasn't enjoying sex. They told police this. They described grunting noises. DaCara's phone went dead at 5:03 a.m., 3 minutes later. And then there were two other roommates who said they heard nothing. They lived on the opposite side of the house. They don't recall what happened. But here's the part that makes your skin crawl. When the suspect's cousin finally spoke to the media, she didn't say, "I can't believe he did this." She didn't say, "This isn't who he is." She said his behavior had changed. She said she rarely saw him anymore. And then she apologized to DaCara's parents while standing next to her own children. What does it mean when the people who share your blood can't defend you? What does it mean when the people who shared your walls heard you kill someone and did nothing? And what does it mean when a 19-year-old girl's last repost on social media was about being the ex nobody needs to worry about, posted hours before she disappeared? This isn't a story about a monster. This is a story about the 2-hour gap nobody can explain, the surveillance footage police won't release, and the moment when going out for gas became a decision that ended 2 families. If you want to understand how a single night can destroy everyone it touches, not just a victim, not just a perpetrator, but everyone in the blast radius, you need to hear what happened when the people closest to this tragedy finally broke their silence. Subscribe, because this case is about to challenge everything you think you know about guilt, complicity, and the difference between hearing something and doing something about it. Let's start with what DaCara's best friend said, because it cuts through all the noise. Her name is DaCara Thompson. She's love. She's a human. She's not an object. The fact that she had to say this tells you everything about what happens when a young black woman goes missing. The internet didn't wait for facts. They didn't wait for context. They started speculating about what she was doing, who she was meeting, whether she was selling her body. They reduced a 19-year-old college student with dreams of real estate to a cautionary tale before her body was even found. Here's what we know about DaCara Thompson before August 22nd. 2025 became the worst day of multiple people's lives. She had just turned 19, 14 days earlier. Her favorite color was pink. She didn't like meeting new people, which is something that resonates if you've ever felt that social exhaustion, that preference for familiar faces. She was in an internship program. Her friends called her mom the college mom, because that's the kind of support system she had. She posted videos with her best friend. She had siblings who loved her enough to search for her for days without sleeping. But social media does what social media does. It fills in gaps with assumptions. Someone reposted a video about exes, about not being the crazy ex who stalks and obsesses. And because DaCara had shared on August 22nd, people started building narratives. Maybe there was a boyfriend. Maybe there was drama. Maybe she was meeting someone she shouldn't have been meeting. Her mother hearted a comment that said, "I don't think drugs were involved." I do believe with her being young, her parents maybe didn't know much about her dating life. Possibly a guy is involved and maybe they were having a disagreement and it went wrong. Think about that for a second. Her mother, in the middle of searching for her missing daughter, saw that comment and hearted it. Not because she was confirming anything, but because when your child is missing, you're grasping for any explanation that makes sense. Any theory that doesn't end with your daughter being dead. Now let's talk about what we actually know happened that night, because the timeline is where this case lives. 10 p.m. on August 22nd. DaCara tells her father she's going to get gas, and she's going out. Not just gas. Out! She was 19. She was responsible. She was trusted. Her father texts her, "I love you. I'm about to go to bed. I was just checking on you." She texts back immediately, "I got gas and I'm out. I should be back soon. I love you too. Good night." That's the last normal conversation her father ever has with her. By 1:30 a.m. on August 23rd, DaCara parks her SUV in the area of Jasmine Terrace in Hyattsville, Maryland. There's surveillance footage of this. Her father obtained it from someone in the neighborhood. She gets out of her car. She walks away. And then there's a gap, a shower gap that nobody can explain. The suspect, Hugo Hernandez Mendez, 35 years old, a landscaper from Guatemala living in Bowie, Maryland, told detectives he went to Galaxy nightclub that night to meet his ex-girlfriend, but they never met up. The Galaxy nightclub is located at 2301 University Boulevard, directly across from where DaCara was last seen entering a black GMC Yukon. Here's where speculation becomes unavoidable, even though authorities haven't confirmed it. Someone online commented, "Didn't he say he was at a club on the next street from where she parked?" My theory is she parked by the apartments at 1:30 because it was free parking. She went into the club, and that's where she met him. Probably had some drinks and went home with him. That's why you don't see her getting in his car until 3 o'clock. That's usually when the club closes. Nobody knows if this is true, but it would explain the gap. It would explain why a 19-year-old who told her father she was going out might have ended up in a stranger's car at 3 in the morning. It would explain why she walked up to the driver's side of that GMC Yukon, talked to the person inside for about a minute, then walked around the passenger side and got in. Because here's what the surveillance footage that police won't release reportedly shows. She willingly entered that vehicle. She wasn't dragged. She wasn't forced. She made a choice based on information she had in that moment. Information we'll never have. The vehicle drives off at 3 a.m. DaCara's phone shows she's in the car the entire time. They arrive at his residence in Bowie at 3:47 a.m. For the next hour and 16 minutes, her phone remains active. She's in that house. She's in his bedroom. At 5 a.m., the roommate in the next room hears what he describes as a sexual encounter. Then he hears grunting noises. He tells police it made him believe someone wasn't enjoying it. 3 minutes later, at 5:03 a.m., DaCara's phone goes dead. Let that timeline sit with you for a moment. From 3:47 a.m. to 5:03 a.m., DaCara Thompson is alive in that house. People are home. People hear things. And at some point during those 76 minutes, she goes from a living, breathing 19-year-old with plans and dreams and people who love her to a body that will be found 9 days later on the side of Route 50. Now, here's where this case fractures into different realities depending on who's speaking. When police execute a search warrant on September 4th, they find what they believe to be DaCara's blood in the suspect's bedroom. They find a missing fingernail. They find hair. They find evidence in the trash. They find multiple pairs of women's underwear and lingerie. The court documents list him as a registered lifetime sex offender, which raises the immediate question: how did nobody know? How did the people he lived with not know? But here's what's even more disturbing. There were 4 people living in that house. The suspect, his cousin, and 2 other roommates. When detectives interview them, 2 of them, the ones whose rooms were next to the suspect's room, tell police they heard something. One describes hearing a sexual encounter and grunting noises. But the other 2 roommates, the ones who lived on the opposite side of the house, say they don't recall what happened. They heard nothing. They know nothing. Does that sound right to you? In a house where someone is being killed violently enough to leave blood evidence, fingernail evidence, hair evidence. In a house at 5 a.m. when most people are asleep and every sound carries. 2 people hear disturbing noises and 2 people hear nothing? The internet has theories. Some people think the other 2 roommates are lying. Some people think they're undocumented and scared of deportation if they cooperate too much. Some people think they genuinely didn't hear anything, and this is just how sound travels in that particular house. But here's what we know for certain. The suspect's cousin, Maria, who agreed to speak to media only if her face wasn't shown, did not defend him. She said he was her family member. She said he lived with them. And then she said recently, she rarely saw him and his behavior changed. That's not what you say when you think someone is innocent. That's what you say when you're trying to reconcile the person you thought you knew with the person who's been charged with murder. She stood in front of cameras with her young children next to her and said, "I am a mother. I understand her mother and father. I have children. I hope God gives them strength through this difficult situation. I really lament that it was a family member of mine, my cousin. I am really sorry. There's no defense there. There's no, he couldn't have done this. There's just an apology for being related to someone who allegedly did something unforgivable. And you have to wonder what she knows that she's not saying. What she saw that made his behavior seem strange. What warning signs existed that nobody acted on until it was too late. Meanwhile, DaCara's family is living in a completely different nightmare. Her father reported her missing on August 23rd, just before 9 p.m., about 18 hours after she was likely already dead. But Prince George's County Police didn't treat it as a critical missing persons case because DaCara was a healthy 19-year-old adult. They didn't post her picture on social media. They didn't issue press releases. They distributed flyers. But the widespread public awareness campaign was grassroots, driven by her family and community. The organization Black and Missing Foundation said what everyone was thinking. Soon as that missing persons case is filed against a flyer and becomes disseminated all over the media, social media platforms, sharing it with the general public. And that right there is a first step because the community can't help you in finding someone if the community is not aware that someone is missing. Those first 24 to 48 hours, those are the most critical moments. Police responded by saying that by the time DaCara was reported missing, she had already entered that vehicle. She was already dead or dying. Publicizing her case wouldn't have saved her. But here's the question that haunts this case. What if police had taken her car when they found it? What if they had processed it as evidence instead of telling her family to take it home because they didn't want it to get towed? What if they had searched it immediately? Would they have found something that led them to the suspect faster? Would they have found DaCara's body before 9 days passed? Her father sat in that parking lot for 48 hours after finding her car, just watching, hoping she would come back for it, hoping someone would come back for it. Nobody did. And you have to imagine what that does to a parent. Sitting there, knowing something is wrong, but not knowing how wrong, not knowing that your daughter is already gone. DaCara's mother spoke at a community prayer vigil, and her words reveal the depth of this family's devastation. She said she'd been out searching around the clock. She said she lost 10 pounds that week from stress and not eating. She said she couldn't respond to all the messages and calls because it was overwhelming, but she saw every single one. She said, "I do not know me. You know I don't play about my children. You know I don't play about my children at all. I am the mom of all moms. The community, everyone my children's friends calls me mom." That's what DaCara lost. That's the support system that was ripped away from her. A mother who would search for days without sleeping. A father who would sit in a parking lot for 48 hours. Siblings who posted desperate pleas on social media. A community that came together because they knew this family, they knew this girl, and they knew something was terribly wrong. And then there's DaCara's best friend, whose pain cuts through everything else. She posted a video that needs to be heard in full, because it captures something essential about what happens to victims in the social media age. She said, "I really do not enjoy that a lot of these people that don't know Dara, never heard of Dara until what happened, are really trying to play with her image. Like, what do you mean? Oh, she must have been selling that box. She was hot. Like, y'all are really weird as fuck. Leave your condolences or get the fuck out." Then she posts another video where she's crying and she says, I don't feel nothing but anger, rage, revenge, emptiness. I don't wish this on my worst enemy. I don't. Justice will be served for Dara. Best believe that justice will be served for her. Right now, I'm just lost for words. I normally don't get on here doing all this crying shit, but this shit hurt. That rawness, that refusal to perform grief in a way that's comfortable for strangers. That's real. That's what it actually looks like when someone you love is reduced to a hashtag in a true crime case while you're still processing the fact that they're never coming back. Another friend posted, "Never did I think that I'll ever be posting about you being gone. It doesn't even seem real. You deserve so much better than what happened to you. Thank you for every moment we had, every conversation that we had, every laugh we shared together, every birthday we celebrated together. Thank you for being my best friend through the years we shared together. I love you forever and always. Gone but never forgotten. These aren't strangers making content. These are people who knew DaCara as a whole person, not as a victim, not as a cautionary tale, but as someone who laughed with them, celebrated birthdays with them, shared ordinary moments that become precious only after they're gone. DaCara's brother posted before her body was found. If anybody has seen my little sister, please let me know. DM me, please. Then after, I dare somebody disrespect me. Then after her body was discovered, just man with heartbroken emojis. Someone responded to his anger with this. Calm down. Please don't feed into any negativity. I know you are heartbroken right now and definitely going through one of the hardest times in your life you will ever go through. Your beautiful dear sister went home to the Lord earlier than you planned. But remember, your baby sister wants to rest in peace, and she knows and can sense her close loved ones are at peace. These are the ripple effects of violence. These are the people left behind trying to make sense of senselessness. Now let's go back to that night, because there are details that don't make sense, contradictions that investigators are still trying to resolve. The suspect told detectives he was at Galaxy nightclub to meet his ex-girlfriend, but they never met up. He admitted he was driving the black GMC Yukon. He admitted he was in the area. Then when detectives pressed him further, he denied any involvement and asked for an attorney. Interview over. But the digital trail doesn't lie. DaCara's phone tracked her getting into that vehicle at 3 a.m. It tracked her arriving at his residence at 3:47 a.m. It tracked her being there until 5:03 a.m. when it went dead. Security footage shows her walking up to his vehicle, talking to him, then getting in voluntarily. This is the detail that makes people uncomfortable because it complicates the narrative. If she got in voluntarily, does that mean she knew him? Does that mean she made a bad decision? Does that mean she shares some responsibility for what happened to her? No, absolutely not. But our brains want to believe that bad things happen because of bad decisions, because if we just make good decisions, we'll be safe. The truth is messier. The truth is that DaCara made a decision based on whatever information she had in that moment. Maybe he seemed safe. Maybe he offered her a ride somewhere. Maybe they had met at the club, and she thought she knew him well enough to get in his car. We'll never know. What we do know is that getting into someone's car, even voluntarily, is not consent to be murdered. It's not permission for violence. And the fact that she got it on her own doesn't make what happened next any less evil. But here's what investigators are still trying to figure out. That 2-hour gap between 1:30 a.m. when she parked her car and 3 a.m. when she got into his vehicle. Where was she? The nightclub theory makes sense geographically. Galaxy nightclub is directly across from where she was seen entering the GMC. The timing makes sense. Clubs close around 3 a.m. If she went inside, if she met him there, if they talked and drank and she felt comfortable enough to accept a ride, that would explain everything. But authorities haven't confirmed this. They've said they're still investigating where and how DaCara and the suspect met. And until they release that information, we're left with speculation and theories and the uncomfortable reality that a 19-year-old girl who told her father she was going out ended up dead in a stranger's house. Here's what happened after 5:03 a.m., according to court documents and police statements. At some point after DaCara's phone went dead, the suspect removed her body from his residence. Maryland State Police found her 9 days later on August 31st on the side of Route 50 at Route 97. She was found after someone called about a disabled vehicle. When troopers arrived, they found a female lying unresponsive in a grassy area off the highway. The medical examiner confirmed it was DaCara Thompson. Authorities haven't released her cause of death. They haven't said exactly how she died or what happened in that bedroom. But the evidence they found during the search warrant tells part of the story. Blood, a fingernail, hair, multiple pairs of women's underwear and lingerie. The suspect was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. He's being held without bond. Court documents show he's a landscaper making about $2,400 a month, paying $700 in rent. And there, buried in the court documents, is a detail that changes everything. He's listed as a registered lifetime sex offender, which means this isn't his first offense, which means there's a history, which means someone, somewhere, was victimized by this man before, and whatever happened wasn't severe enough or wasn't prosecuted effectively enough to keep him away from other potential victims. How does a registered sex offender end up in a house with other people who don't seem to know about his past? How does he end up with access to young women at nightclubs? How does the system fail so completely that someone with a documented history of sexual violence can be in a position to allegedly commit murder? These are the questions that should make us uncomfortable. These are the systemic failures that don't get discussed because it's easy to focus on what DaCara did or didn't do, whether she should have been out at that hour, whether she should have gotten in that car. But the real question is, why was he free to be in that nightclub in the first place? Now, let's talk about what the neighbors said, because their reactions reveal something about how we process evil when it happens next door. One neighbor said, "It's very unfortunate that we have to live in a society where predators are always lurking." Another said, "I just felt that there was a need for me to come out and extend my condolences to the family." Tracy Franklin, whose home was visited by investigators, said, "I am very glad to see that coverage is happening and awareness of a young African-American woman missing, because a lot of times that doesn't happen." That last comment is crucial. Black women and girls go missing at disproportionate rates, and their cases don't receive the same media attention, the same public outcry, the same resources. The fact that DaCara's case became widely known is largely due to her family's efforts in community organizing, not because the system worked the way it should have. The neighbors also said the family living in that house had been there for a couple years and were quiet. No problems, no warning signs, which is what neighbors always say, isn't it? Because predators don't advertise. They don't put up signs that say, "Dangerous person lives here." They blend in. They seem normal. They seem quiet, until they're not. Back to the roommate situation, because this is where the case gets legally and morally complicated. When police executed the search warrant, they detained everyone in the house and transported them to the Criminal Investigation Division for questioning. The cousin's husband was also taken in, then released, then arrested again, not for anything related to DaCara's murder, but because he's an undocumented immigrant from Mexico. Maria, the cousin, said on camera, "They did not have an order for my husband or a warrant for me. They simply handcuffed him and took him. My husband has nothing to do with the alleged crime." She insisted he cooperated fully with the investigation, but Immigration and Customs Enforcement arrested him anyway. This is the reality for undocumented immigrants in situations like this. Even when they're witnesses, even when they cooperate, even when they're not involved in the crime at all, they risk deportation. Which raises the question, how many other people in that house or in that community might have information, but are too scared to come forward because they're worried about their immigration status? This is how crimes go unsolved. This is how witnesses disappear. This is how the fear of one system, immigration enforcement, undermines another system, criminal justice. As for the two roommates who said they heard nothing, who claim they were on the opposite side of the house and don't recall anything happening, what's their story? Are they telling the truth? Are they scared? Are they protecting someone? The court documents don't say. Police haven't named them publicly. We don't know if they're undocumented, if they're related to the suspect, if they have their own reasons for staying silent. We just know that two people in that house heard disturbing sounds at 5 a.m. and two people heard nothing. And DaCara Thompson's body was found 9 days later on the side of a highway. Here's what the community did while police were investigating. DaCara's mother and father organized search parties. They went door to door. They distributed flyers. They used social media to spread awareness. Community members showed up at prayer vigils. One woman, Jolene Ivy, spoke about being a mother of 5 sons and said, "I can't imagine losing any one of them. There is not one I can lose." Someone led a prayer using Psalm 91. When we abide under the shadow of Shaddai, we are hidden in the strength of God Most High. He is the hope that holds us and the stronghold to shelter us. This is what communities do when the system fails them. They show up, they search, they pray, they support each other through the worst moments imaginable. But there's something particularly devastating about the fact that DaCara's family had to do this work themselves. They had to find her car. They had to organize searches. They had to be the ones pushing for media coverage and public awareness, because the official response wasn't treating her disappearance as critical. The police chief defended this decision by saying that by the time she was reported missing, she had already entered that vehicle. The implication being, it wouldn't have mattered if we'd publicized this immediately because she was already gone. But that logic only works in hindsight. At the time she was reported missing, no one knew she was dead. No one knew she'd gotten into that vehicle. All they knew was that a 19-year-old woman hadn't come home when she said she would. And the default position was, she's an adult, she probably stayed out late, this isn't critical. Meanwhile, her father was sitting in a parking lot for 48 hours waiting for her to come back to her car. Her mother was losing 10 pounds from stress. Her siblings were posting desperate pleas on social media. How many hours could have been saved if the police response had been different? We'll never know, but we know that black women and girls are less likely to be taken seriously when they go missing. We know their cases receive less media attention, fewer resources, less urgency. DaCara Thompson deserved better than that. Now let's talk about what happens next, because the legal process is just beginning, and there are questions that may never be answered. The suspect is charged with first-degree murder. He's being held without bond. If convicted, he faces life in prison. Maryland doesn't have the death penalty anymore, so life is the maximum sentence. The prosecution will present their case: the surveillance footage, the phone tracking data, the physical evidence found in his bedroom, the witness testimony from the roommates who heard disturbing sounds. They'll establish timeline, motive, opportunity. They'll argue that he lured DaCara to his home under false pretenses and murdered her. The defense will have to counter this somehow. We don't know their strategy yet. We don't know if they'll claim it was consensual and something went wrong. We don't know if they'll argue the evidence was mishandled. We don't know if they'll attack the credibility of the roommate witnesses. What we do know is that trials are unpredictable. Evidence that seems overwhelming doesn't always lead to conviction. Witnesses change their stories. Defense attorneys find procedural errors. Juries have reasonable doubt. And DaCara's family will have to sit through all of it. They'll have to hear the details of her final moments. They'll have to see photos of evidence. They'll have to watch the person accused of killing their daughter sit at the defense table, presumed innocent until proven guilty. That's the legal system working as designed. But it's also a form of torture for victims' families. There are also questions that the trial may not answer. Like, what happened during those 2 hours between when she parked her car and when she got into his vehicle? Did they meet at the club? Did they know each other before that night? Was this random or targeted? And what happened to make his behavior change in the weeks or months before this? His cousin said she rarely saw him anymore, that he was acting strange. What did that look like? Were there warning signs? Were there other women who had uncomfortable encounters with him but didn't report them? And what about the other roommates who claimed they heard nothing? Will they be called to testify? Will their immigration status be used to discredit them or prevent them from speaking freely? These are the loose threads that may never be tied up neatly. These are the gaps in the narrative that we'll have to live with. But here's what we can think about while we wait for justice to play out. DaCara Thompson was 19 years old. She had been an adult for barely a year. She was in that phase of life where you're testing boundaries, figuring out independence, making decisions that your parents might not love, but that you think are safe enough. Going out at night, meeting people, living your life. She told her father she was going to get gas and going out. He trusted her. She texted him, "I love you too, good night." Those were the last words they exchanged. There's no world in which that should lead to murder. There's no decision DaCara made that justifies what allegedly happened to her. Getting gas at night doesn't equal death. Going to a club doesn't equal death. Getting into someone's car doesn't equal death. The only person responsible for her death is the person who killed her. But we live in a world that wants to find reasons why victims could have prevented their own victimization. We want to believe that if we just follow the rules, if we just make smart choices, if we just stay aware of our surroundings, we'll be safe. DaCara's mother said as much at the prayer vigil. We need you all to pay attention to your surroundings. When you go in a building, look to see where the first exit is. Know where you're going. Know who you're meeting. Tell somebody where you're going. That's good advice. That's practical safety advice that could save lives. But it also puts the burden on potential victims to prevent their own victimization instead of on perpetrators to not be violent. And sometimes, even when you do everything right, even when you tell people where you're going and you stay aware and you think you're making safe choices, sometimes violence finds you anyway. That's the truth we don't want to face. That's the randomness and chaos that terrifies us. So instead, we scrutinize victims. We ask why they were out so late, why they got in that car, why they were at that club, whether they'd been drinking, whether they knew the person, whether they should have known better. DaCara's best friend pushed back against this hard. A lot of these people that don't know Dara, never heard of Dara until what happened, are really trying to play with her image. She's right. People who never knew DaCara feel entitled to judge her choices, to speculate about her personal life, to reduce her to a collection of mistakes that led to her death. But DaCara was a person. She was someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's best friend. She had dreams of working in real estate. She had a favorite color, pink. She didn't like meeting new people, but she had a close circle who loved her deeply. She was in an internship program. She was building a future, and someone took that away from her. That's the story. Not what she was doing out at 1 a.m., not whether she made smart choices, not whether she should have told her father more details about her plans. The story is that a 19-year-old woman with her whole life ahead of her is dead, and someone is responsible for that. Now let's talk about what this case reveals about the systems that are supposed to protect us. First, the missing persons response. Prince George's County Police have guidelines about what constitutes a critical missing person. Adults who are healthy and have no signs of foul play don't typically trigger immediate widespread alerts. This is partly practical. Most adults who go missing show up within 24 to 48 hours. They stayed out late, they turned off their phone, they had an argument with family, and needed space. But this policy disproportionately affects young women, particularly young women of color, because the assumption is they're fine, they'll turn up, this isn't urgent. And by the time it becomes clear that no, this is urgent, this is critical, she's not coming back, precious hours or days have been lost. The Black and Missing Foundation exists specifically because of this disparity. Because Gabby Petito's face was everywhere within days of her disappearance, while countless Black women and girls vanished with minimal media coverage or public awareness. Second, registered sex offenders living in communities. If the court documents are accurate and the suspect was a registered lifetime sex offender, that means he was supposed to be monitored. That means he was considered high risk. That means the system identified him as someone who poses a continuing threat. And yet he was living in a house with other families, going to nightclubs, allegedly meeting women, and bringing them home. How does that happen? What's the point of sex offender registry if it doesn't actually prevent sex offenders from being in situations where they can reoffend? This is a policy question that goes beyond this individual case. Do registries work? Do they prevent crimes or just create a public database? Are there supervision requirements that aren't being enforced? Should there be? Third, the roommate situation. If two people heard disturbing sounds at 5 a.m. and didn't call police, what does that say about our collective responsibility to each other? What does it say about the bystander effect, about not wanting to get involved, about assuming someone else will handle it? Maybe they didn't realize what they were hearing. Maybe they thought it was just loud sex and none of their business. Maybe they were scared of the suspect. Maybe they're undocumented and scared of any interaction with police. But DaCara was in that house, possibly calling for help, possibly making sounds that indicated distress. And the people who heard it did nothing in the moment. That's not legally culpable. That's not criminally negligent. But it's morally complicated. And it's worth thinking about what we would do in that situation. If you heard something disturbing at 5 a.m. in your apartment building or your shared house, would you call 911? Would you knock on the door? Would you convince yourself it's not your business? These are uncomfortable questions. These are the questions that make true crime more than just entertainment. Because the truth is, DaCara Thompson's case isn't exceptional. It's not a once-in-a-generation horror story. Young women go missing every day. They're murdered by strangers, by acquaintances, by partners. Their families search. Their friends grieve. The system fails them in predictable ways. What makes this case particular is that we can see the failure points so clearly. We can see the 2-hour gap that might have been prevented with better nightclub safety or buddy systems. We can see the delayed police response that might have been different if DaCara were white. We can see the roommates who heard something and did nothing. We can see the registered sex offender who was free to allegedly kill again. We can see all of it. And the question is, what do we do with that information? Do we tell young women to stay home, stay safe, don't go out after 10 p.m., don't get in cars with people you just met? Do we put the burden entirely on potential victims to prevent their own murders? Or do we ask harder questions about why men feel entitled to women's bodies and lives? Why violence against women is so common that we're not even shocked anymore? Why the systems designed to protect us fail so consistently? DaCara's best friend said it perfectly. Her name is DaCara Thompson. She's love. She's a human. She's not an object. That's the baseline. That's the minimum. Before she's a victim, before she's a cautionary tale, before she's a true crime case, she's a human being who deserved to live. And everyone who failed her, the systems, the bystanders, the person who allegedly killed her, they failed a human being, not a statistic, not a headline, a person. Here's what I keep coming back to, the silence of the suspect's family. When someone you love is accused of murder, you have choices. You can offend them publicly, insist on their innocence, claim it's all a mistake. You can stay silent, refuse to engage with media, protect your privacy. Or you can do what Maria did, speak publicly but offer no defense, no explanation, just an apology. I am really sorry. That's what she said. Not he didn't do this. Not there must be some explanation. Just sorry. What does she know that made that the only thing she could say? What did she see in the weeks before DaCara's murder when she said his behavior changed? What warning signs existed that maybe she didn't recognize as warning signs until it was too late? And what does it cost her to know that her cousin, her family member, someone she lived with and presumably cared about, is accused of something so horrific? That's a different kind of grief. That's the grief of losing someone to their own evil actions. That's the grief of wondering if you could have stopped it, if you should have known, if you're complicit somehow just by being related. There's no support system for that. There's no sympathy for the families of accused murderers. They're expected to either defend their loved one or disappear into silence. Maria chose a third path: public accountability, public sorrow, public recognition that her family member allegedly did something unforgivable to someone else's family member. That takes a kind of moral courage that doesn't get acknowledged enough. Similarly, think about what DaCara's family is facing. They have to grieve publicly. They have to answer questions from media and internet strangers about whether she should have been out that late, whether she made bad decisions, whether they should have protected her better. Her mother had to stand in front of cameras and talk about losing 10 pounds from stress, about searching day and night, about not being able to respond to messages because the grief is so overwhelming. Her father had to release surveillance footage of his daughter's last known movements, knowing that footage would be analyzed and discussed and theorized about by millions of people. Her siblings and friends had to watch people online speculate about DaCara's sex life, her relationships, whether she was selling her body, whether she deserved what happened to her. And through all of that, they have to somehow hold on to who DaCara actually was. Not the victim, not the cautionary tale, but the 19-year-old who liked pink and wanted to work in real estate and love her family and friends. That's an impossible task. But it's the task that gets handed to every family of every murder victim. Grieve your person while the world picks apart their last moments and judges their choices and reduces them to a headline. So here's what I'm asking you to think about, because this case isn't over and the questions it raises don't have easy answers. Where's the line between personal responsibility and systemic failure? Yes, DaCara made choices that night. She went out. She parked her car. She got into someone's vehicle. But those choices shouldn't equal death. The system should have protected her through better missing persons protocols, through effective monitoring of sex offenders, through a culture that doesn't tolerate violence against women. Where's the line between privacy and public safety? If the suspect was a registered sex offender, Should his roommates have been informed? Should there be public databases that are easier to search? Or does that create a permanent underclass of people who can never reintegrate into society? Where's the line between bystander and accomplice? If you hear something disturbing and do nothing, what's your moral culpability? What would you actually do in that situation? And finally, how do we honor victims without turning them into cautionary tales? How do we tell these stories in a way that respects their humanity while still examining the systemic failures that allowed them to be victimized? I don't have answers to these questions. I don't think anyone does. But I think asking them is important. Because DaCara Thompson's case isn't just about one night in August when a 19-year-old went out and never came home. It's about all the nights, all the young women, all the families who are living this nightmare right now while we watch and discuss and theorize. It's about the fact that DaCara's best friend had to get on social media and beg people to stop playing with her image, had to remind strangers that her friend was a human being, not an object. It's about the fact that her mother is the mom of all moms, the person everyone in the community calls mom, and she couldn't protect her own daughter from this. It's about the fact that the suspect's cousin had to apologize for being related to someone accused of evil, had to stand there with her children and say, "I am really sorry," while her own husband was being arrested for being undocumented. It's about the fact that 2 roommates heard disturbing sounds and 2 roommates heard nothing, and DaCara's body was found 9 days later on the side of a highway. All of these things are true at the same time. All of these realities exist simultaneously, and we have to hold all of them if we want to understand what actually happened and why it keeps happening. So leave a comment and tell me, what would you do if you were the roommate who heard those sounds at 5 a.m.? Would you call 911? Would you convince yourself it was nothing? Would you knock on the door? Be honest, because it's easy to judge from distance, but put yourself in that moment. You're half asleep, you hear something disturbing. You don't want to be wrong, you don't want to get involved, you're scared of the person in the next room. What would you actually do? And tell me, do you think the police response would have been different if DaCara were white? Do you think she would have been classified as a critical missing person immediately? Do you think the media coverage would have been more intense, more widespread, more urgent? Be honest about that too, because these disparities exist. They're documented. They're real, and we can't fix them if we don't acknowledge them. This case stays with me because there are no easy answers. There's no monster to point at and say, that person is evil and the rest of us are good. There's just a series of decisions and failures and moments where things could have gone differently, but didn't. DaCara decided to go out that night. Her father decided to trust her. The person at the nightclub decided to let her in. The suspect decided to offer her a ride, or to accept her getting in his car. The roommates decided not to call 911 when they heard disturbing sounds. The police decided her case wasn't critical. The media decided her disappearance wasn't newsworthy enough for immediate coverage. Each decision made sense to the person making it in that moment. Each one seemed reasonable, or at least not catastrophically dangerous. But together, they added up to DaCara Thompson being dead at 19, and a family being destroyed, and a community being traumatized, and all of us sitting here trying to make sense of it. That's the tragedy. Not that evil exists, we know evil exists, but that evil succeeds so often not because of exceptional monsters, but because of ordinary failures compounding on each other. If one thing had been different, if DaCara had stayed home, if the roommates had called 911, if police had treated her as critical immediately, if the suspect had been monitored more effectively, she might still be alive. But we don't get to live in a world of if one thing had been different. We live in this world where DaCara Thompson is dead and her family is grieving and the suspect is awaiting trial, and the roommates have to live with what they heard and didn't act on. This is the world we created with our systems and our choices and our collective shrugging at violence against women. This is what it looks like when everything fails at once. So, hit like if this case made you think about your own responsibility to the people around you. Subscribe if you want cases that don't give you easy answers, but instead ask you to sit with uncomfortable questions. And comment with your honest response to those questions. Because I want to know what you're actually thinking, not what you think you're supposed to think. Because the only way we prevent the next DaCara Thompson is by being honest about the failures that led to this one. The only way we do better is by acknowledging that we're part of systems that often don't protect the people who most need protection. DaCara Thompson was love. She was human. She was not an object. Remember that. Remember her. And ask yourself what you're going to do differently tomorrow because of what you learned about her story today. Because somewhere tonight, there's another 19-year-old deciding whether to go out. There's another roommate hearing something disturbing and deciding whether to call for help. There's another family about to report someone missing and hoping the police take it seriously. The choices we make matter. The systems we accept or challenge matter. The way we talk about victims matters. DaCara Thompson deserved better. The next person deserves better. What are you going to do about it?